Hi, yeah, so, not dead, just been busy as all hell. And while that is the main reason for my absence as of late, it's not the only one. I also just haven't been watching a ton of shows lately. Even a lot of seasonals from my last video have kind of fallen out of favor. Not because I stopped enjoying them, but because with my hectic schedule recently, I wasn't able to watch some of the shows at the normal time I would have. And so I kind of ended up with an unintentional litmus test where I found out just how strong my desire to continue watching a particular series really was. But out of the ashes of those shows, I found some manga to indulge in. It just fit better into the limited time I had. I've been making my way through the Kaguya manga, as well as continually keeping up with weekly releases of My Hero Academia, The Promised Neverland, and Dr. Stone. All of which are very, very good. Though if you follow Shonen Jump at all, you likely don't need me to tell you that for those last three. But during this past month of manga, there was another series that caught my eye, and to my surprise, despite it running for over a year now in weekly Shonen Jump, it is yet to gain a substantial following in the West. And it kind of goes without saying then, but the series is likewise devoid of any content or discourse surrounding it. So I want to introduce you to this manga, and in doing so, explain why I think it deserves your attention, but also look at possible reasons for why it hasn't garnered that on its own. This is Act Age. From the title, it shouldn't be surprising to learn that this is a series that centers around acting. No, not acting out or acting like a jackass. There are thankfully no millennial vlogger manga that I'm aware of. Just acting. A topic that really hasn't had much of a major spotlight in either manga or anime. And based on what I've seen, this is the first time the subject matter has been portrayed in Weekly Shonen Jump. But maybe that's not all too surprising, for the manga side of things anyway. A lot of acting can come down to the vocal performance and overall delivery from the actor, not to mention sometimes subtle shifts in tone, body language, and facial expressions. A medium like manga may be able to depict those latter two, but obviously... So with all that said, I think it's incredible that Act Age has been able to illustrate acting this impressively. There have been moments while reading it that through strong dialogue and visual presentation gave me legitimate chills and goosebumps. But I'm getting ahead of myself. In order to fully convey the appeal of this series, we need to look at the central protagonist, Yonagi Kei. She's 16 years old with the dream of becoming an actor, and it's through her eyes that we get a glimpse at the varied world of acting. From commercials, to movies and plays, to even an amateur project. Amateur school project, okay? I know where your minds went, and frankly you should be ashamed. Anyway, through these experiences, we also get a closer look at how she acts. At the start of the series, Yonagi is exceptionally good at method acting, the idea that drawing on your own past events can help you more genuinely connect to your role, the result being a hopefully more emotional and impactful performance. And when I say exceptionally good, I mean scary good, to the point where you kind of have to question if it's even acting. If, like Yonagi, you genuinely believe you're in the situation and just react accordingly, is that acting? That's one of the questions the series puts forward and then kind of lets you draw your own conclusions on as we see her acting contrasted with other performances. And we also get to see her hone her skills through these interactions. The manga does a really great job of showing that sense of in-the-moment chemistry that's depicted between Yonagi and her co-stars, where each actor ends up elevating the other's performance, kind of symbiotically feeding off each other's energy. And it's not just her acting that improves. Over the course of just the first major arc of Act Age, Yonagi herself changes. After she begins acting for real, gets her initial gig that is, she becomes a much happier and whole person. It's something that really only comes to light after you look back at her early self, but the difference is night and day. I didn't really like her as a protagonist early on. She felt hollow and a bit mopey. But after the first arc, almost all of that goes away. She's so much more energetic and full of life, I think she's even drawn a bit different. And if any of this was intentional, that you as the reader should notice this contrast, then it's fantastic. It's emblematic of how fulfilling finding something you love can be, but also seems to be foreshadowing that throwing yourself too far into it could be dangerous. I'm trying to be somewhat vague because there are less than 70 chapters out currently, and I don't want to just spoil all of the major plot points. So I'll steer clear of those as well as I discuss some of my minor issues with the manga and what a possible anime adaptation could capitalize on. Now, for a complaint, this is going to be entirely subjective, but I am not the biggest fan of the manga's art style. It has grown on me, but the eyes end up being a thing I keep coming back to, and if you know me, you know I like eyes. And these don't always do it for me. What's particularly interesting is I'm much more okay with it in black and white than I am with the occasional color pages or volume covers. Just the shading feels odd, and there's a little too much detail in the wrong places in my opinion. But your mileage is gonna vary, and you might really like the way everyone's drawn. And if you fall more into my camp, I do think the story and characters are strong enough to surmount any visual issues you may have. Plus, sometimes that detail does go in the right places, and you get really breathtaking panels like this. And I do think some of these could translate really well into an anime. Not this one necessarily, but panels that get us in Yonagi's headspace. This happens at the end of the very first chapter, and in the hands of the right staff, you could showcase a really cool moment of our reality dissolving away or transforming into what she's seeing in that moment. An anime would also no doubt benefit more from voice acting than your average manga, really being able to hit home some of those emotional moments, potentially more so than the source material. Also, I wouldn't terribly mind simpler character designs for the anime. But this is all just rampant speculation. Truth be told, it's not a guarantee it'll get an adaptation. Though given that it seems to be selling well in Japan and is a Shonen Jump title, I wouldn't be terribly surprised. If so, we'd probably see an announcement within a year. It'd make sense for the timeline in which most Jump anime have recently been greenlit. And I could see a late 2020 to early 2021 premiere for it. We'll just have to wait and see. Though an anime would no doubt increase its popularity in the West, as we've already seen that happen for many titles. Which brings us to an interesting conversation surrounding Act Age. The fact that there really is no conversation, at least among the English-speaking fanbase. There have yet to be any printed volumes released in the West, which could be a contributing factor, or the fact that about 40 chapters are legally unavailable through both the Shonen Jump and Manga Plus apps. Get on that, Viz! But generally speaking, legal restrictions don't always deter a product if it's popular enough. Just look at any good series like Made in Abyss that was behind Amazon's double paywall. It could also be that any attention it would otherwise be getting is being swallowed up by this year of Shonen Jump 2019 seems to be. We've already had 3 adaptations so far, with The Promised Neverland in winter and both Demon Slayer and We Never Learn in spring. Plus, you have to add Dr. Stone that's premiering in the summer, and Hiroaka Season 4 in fall, and yeah, maybe this is partially the reason that some of their newer titles aren't getting a ton of love. Okay, so this script was finished, but they just announced that Shokugeki no Soma will also be getting its 4th season in fall. So yeah, it really is the year of Jump. Still though, when it comes to new manga titles, attention is something that generally accumulates over time, and Act Age has been out for a year and a half now, but only boasts a 500-member subreddit and 5,300-member MAL page. If you don't think these numbers matter at all, I understand and to an extent agree. I'm just trying to get the best gauge on Western popularity. Even still, those numbers don't mean a whole lot without context. 500 isn't a lot of atoms, but it sure is a lot of atomic bombs. So let's take a look at one of its contemporaries in Dr. Stone. It's been running for a little less than a year longer than Act Age, but has just over 5,000 members on its subreddit and 32,000 members on MAL. Though, with its anime currently being pushed harder than Bikini Bottom, its numbers may be somewhat inflated. The same thing happened to The Promised Neverland, where it jumped from a similar subreddit number in the thousands to almost 30,000 now 3 months after the anime has finished airing. Either way though, using the Wayback Machine shows Dr. Stone was at a subreddit count of 2,500 a year ago, at which time it had been out for about as long as Act Age currently is. So that's still a factor of 5. And maybe what's more telling is Chainsaw Man, a manga that only has 20-some chapters currently out, but also has a subreddit count of 2,500 and roughly the same number of members on MAL as Act Age. Though Chainsaw Man did make a splash by being, batshit insane from what I've heard? And maybe therein lies the reason for this series' relative silence among new and emerging Jump titles. It's normal. While I would count Act Age among these more unique stories like Dr. Stone and The Promised Neverland, it remains more grounded in a sense than much of what is currently running in the magazine. There's no real twist or extra hook, no demons devouring children or world being turned to stone, just a story about a girl who wants to become an actor. But hey, it is still running in Jump, and it's certainly made it past the point most early series get axed by. Rip Hellward and Higuma, and let me just, can't be too safe. And it seems to be placing consistently well in the table of contents for whatever that's worth. By most measurable metrics, it seems to be doing well in Japan. So maybe it's just that Western audiences still expect more zaniness, more pizzazz, more something from their Shonen Jump series. I don't know. What I do know though is Act Age is a series worth giving a chance. Yonaki has become a fantastic protagonist, and the series cuts deeper than you'd expect early on. It may seem niche based on the subject matter, but even as someone with only a passing interest in acting, I can say it's been a damn enjoyable story so far. But those are just my thoughts, and as always, I'd love to hear yours. Have you by chance read Act Age? Or are you coming back to this video now that you have? Maybe you're watching this after the possible anime comes out a few years from now. Whatever it is, feel free to let me know what you think. And out of curiosity, what's your favorite series currently running in Shonen Jump? Any other thoughts and comments are also welcome down below. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, an especially big thanks goes out to my awesome patrons, HinikuHou, OverjoyedSoup, MVPino, James Morton, Marbled Ranger, Spudge, Beorn, and everyone else whose support helps make videos like these possible. Links to that Patreon if you'd like to join them, my shirts, and everything else are either down below or on the screen right now. Leave a like and click that bell icon to keep up to date, or you can just follow me on Twitter. Stay awesome, it's good to be back, and I'll see you next time.